Paris lit up in 1,000 camera flashes when Kim Taehyung, known globally as V, stepped out into the midnight air, leather jacket gleaming, the golden crest of Celine catching every spotlight. But if you look closely at that viral video, the one every army has dissected frame by frame, something feels unmistakably off. The music is blaring, the crowd is roaring, Park Bo-gum is at his side beaming with effortless charm, yet there's a gap in the frame that no amount of luxury can fill. Where was Jungkook? And why? With all the effortless ease of a man enjoying his first taste of freedom after military service, did Taeyong not seem to notice, or care, that his closest bandmate was nowhere to be seen? This is not just gossip. It's a question that has ignited an all-consuming wildfire of speculation across every corner of the internet. Was Jungkook really left out of the invitation list? Or did he choose to stay away from a night that promised to be a headline-making spectacle? And if so, why? In a span of a single evening, what began as a glamorous celebration of Celine's Spring/Summer 2026 collection transformed into a nerve-jangling study in public loyalty, hidden rivalries, and the price of superstardom. Fans are asking themselves the same haunting question over and over. Is this the moment everything changed between Taeyong and Jungkook? To understand why this story feels so combustible, you have to look past the perfect lighting, the designer suits, the luxury SUVs lined up in the rain-slicked Parisian streets. You have to rewind to Incheon International Airport on July 4th, 2025, barely 24 hours before the first champagne bottle was uncorked at L'Arc Club. There, in a frenzy of screaming supporters, Taeyong boarded a private flight bound for Paris, clad head to toe in Celine's unmistakable monochrome. The media hailed it as his grand return to global prominence, his first official schedule since completing his military service on June 10th. Every headline declared it a moment of triumph. But in the grainy fan videos from the departure hall, you can already sense the absence. No Jungkook waving goodbye, no hug, no shared look that spoke of all they had survived together. S.O. when Taeyong stepped into the velvety shadows of L'Arc, when he began to dance in the middle of that chandelier-lit room with Park Bo-gum at his shoulder, the symbolism was impossible to ignore. This wasn't just any party. This was the first public declaration that he was back, and he was doing it without the friend who had once been his constant mirror. Of course, the official narrative insists everything is fine. A statement from Celine's Paris PR team described the event as a private celebration in honor of Taeyong's return to international engagements, carefully sidestepping any mention of who was or wasn't invited. Park Bo-gum, who has cultivated a reputation as Taeyong's steadfast confidant, smiled for the cameras with the polished serenity of a man who has no interest in stoking controversy. Yet no amount of polite denials could suppress the speculation already boiling across Korean and international media. Because for fans who have followed Taeyong and Jungkook's history, their inside jokes, their late-night live streams, their unguarded glances that seem to say more than words ever could, this silence feels like a betrayal too big to ignore. Was this really just a scheduling conflict? Or was it something darker, something that has been building behind the scenes for months? It's impossible to dismiss the timing. Just weeks before the Paris trip, Big Hit Music announced that BTS would finally reunite for a full comeback album in the spring of 2026. The announcement electrified armies worldwide and sparked 1,000 nostalgic retrospectives on how each member had evolved during military service. Jungkook, in particular, had spent much of the past year focused on solo projects, including a chart-topping digital single and a series of understated performances that stood in stark contrast to Taeyong's headline-grabbing luxury endorsements. Some insiders whispered that this divergence was creating an unspoken competition, one that no one dared name aloud. If the Paris party was supposed to be a celebration of unity and fresh beginnings, it ended up delivering the opposite. A public demonstration of just how far Taeyong had drifted from the boy he once shared a stage with. Fans watching from around the globe could sense it in every careless sway of his shoulders on the dance floor. This was a man who had learned to shine alone, and maybe, just maybe, preferred it that way. But how much of this narrative is projection, and how much is real? Eyewitnesses at L'Arc describe an atmosphere thick with anticipation and curiosity. One attendee, who requested anonymity, claimed that when Taeyong first walked in, the hush that fell over the room was almost reverent. "It was like a movie," she said. Everyone wanted to see how he would act. If he looked nervous. If he would mention Jungkook. But he just laughed with Bogum, ordered drinks, and started dancing like he didn't have a care in the world. That's the detail that has left fans reeling. Because if Jungkook's absence was merely logistical, if he had chosen to stay home to rest or prepare for a separate engagement, why did Taeyong look so unbothered? And why, in the countless photos and videos flooding social media, does he never so much as check his phone, as though waiting for a message that never arrived? Theories have multiplied with dizzying speed. One popular thread on Korean community platform The Ko claims that Jungkook was indeed invited but declined, citing personal reasons, an explanation vague enough to satisfy no one. Another insists that Jungkook was deliberately excluded by Celine, who wanted to keep the focus squarely on Taeyong's solo brand power. Yet another proposes the most incendiary theory of all, that Taeyong himself requested Jungkook not be included to ensure that the night would belong to him alone. Fans are scouring every clue for confirmation. They've analyzed timestamps on Instagram stories, cross-referenced the known schedules of all 7 BTS members, and examined every blurry reflection in every video clip. But the real truth remains locked behind a wall of carefully curated silence. And perhaps that's why this story refuses to die. Because it isn't just about whether Jungkook received an invitation. It's about the deeper question: how much can two people change before the bond that once felt unbreakable finally gives way? In the hours after the party, hashtags bloomed like bruises across Twitter and TikTok. Hashtag Taeyong Paris, hashtag Jungkook missing, hashtag BTS drama, hashtag Taekook no more. Each new angle of Taeyong and Bogum dancing fed the hunger for answers. Each moment of silence from Jungkook made the speculation feel more sinister. If you watch the footage, really watch it, you might notice something unsettling. Taeyong is smiling, yes. He is posing for the cameras, yes. But there is a flicker in his eyes, a half-second of distraction that suggests he is aware of the scrutiny and determined not to let it in. You can almost see him deciding, "This is my moment, and I will not let anyone, not even Jungkook, take it from me. Did I ask that selfishness? Or is it the necessary steal that fame demands?" Fans can't agree. Some argue that Taeyong has earned the right to his own spotlight, that after years of sharing every triumph and every humiliation with 6 other men, he deserves an evening that belongs only to him. Others say that in choosing this independence, he has betrayed the very thing that made BTS so beloved in the first place, their unshakable brotherhood. And in the end, perhaps that is what makes this story so devastating. Because whether you see Taeyong's night in Paris as a triumph or a tragedy, it forces you to confront the reality that no bond is immune to time, ambition, and the relentless hunger of a world that refuses to let its idols remain human. What was Jungkook doing while the world obsessed over Taeyong's dance? Was he watching from a distance, feeling a hollow in his chest? Or was he already moving on, carving out his own path, preparing to reclaim the spotlight in his own way? That is the question that will linger long after the last glass of champagne was drained and the last flashbulb dimmed. And maybe, just maybe, that is the point. As dawn broke over Paris on July 6, 2025, the streets outside L'Arc were littered with crushed cigarette ends and discarded wristbands. Mute evidence of a night that will be dissected for years. Inside BTS fandom circles, the party had already been reframed as a seismic cultural event, not just another celebrity engagement. Because it wasn't just about what Taeyong did, it was about what it might mean. If you think this is overblown, consider the timing. Just weeks prior, Big Hit Music announced that the long-awaited BTS comeback would arrive next spring, promising a full creative reunion that would showcase the members' personal growth. For millions of ARMYs, that announcement was a promise of renewal after years of uncertainty and longing. It was an oath that no matter how far each member traveled in their solo endeavors, they would always return to each other. But what if that promise was already fracturing? Many observers point out that Taeyong's Paris trip, planned in meticulous detail by Celine's elite marketing division, had been in motion for months. His military discharge had barely been finalized before the invitations went out to luxury editors and influencers worldwide. It was, by every measure, a triumphant return orchestrated to perfection. Yet nowhere in any official release was Jungkook mentioned, an omission that quickly became the raw nerve everyone wanted to press. Fans were relentless in their pursuit of evidence that would explain the silence. Some dug up old interviews from 2019 when Taeyong and Jungkook spoke openly about their friendship, describing each other as soulmates. Others circulated clips from BTS's final group concerts before enlistment, where Jungkook wrapped an arm protectively around Taeyong's shoulders while he wiped tears from his eyes. In those memories, they were inseparable. So why did this moment feel so hollow? One popular TikTok compilation titled, "Jungkook Watching Taeyong Shine Without Him," quickly racked up 4 million views in 48 hours. In it, the creator juxtaposed Taeyong dancing in Paris with an old clip of Jungkook sitting alone in a dressing room, head bowed. The effect was manipulative, maybe even cruel, but it spoke to something real, the fear that the love between them was no longer mutual. Even K-pop industry insiders began weighing in. An unnamed stylist who had worked with both idols told Korean outlet Dispatch that the dynamic between them had shifted subtly over the past year. "It's not animosity," she insisted carefully, "but I think they're finding out who they are as individuals." Taeyong is very clear about wanting to build his own empire. Jungkook is more private. That difference creates distance. Was that distance a natural byproduct of growing up, or a rift no one knew how to bridge? For some fans, the answer is obvious. They argue that Jungkook had no obligation to attend a fashion show or a club event that had nothing to do with his music. They see Taeyong's independence not as a betrayal, but as an inspiring declaration that he is unafraid to stand alone. And yet, even they can't deny that something about this story feels raw, like watching a friendship you thought was immortal start to crumble under the weight of fame. Perhaps the most haunting detail comes from a short video clip shot inside Lark at 2:13 a.m. In the footage, Taeyong is framed in profile, the pale golden light of the chandeliers catching on his cheekbones. Park Bo-gum is laughing beside him, a hand resting casually at the back of his neck. But Taeyong isn't smiling. For a split second, he looks out past the velvet ropes, out toward the crowd of onlookers, and his face goes still. Is he searching for someone? Is he thinking of Jungkook? Or is he simply savoring a moment he never expected to own alone? When the clip surfaced online, fans pounced on that moment of stillness like a clue in a murder investigation. Some said it was proof that Taeyong regretted Jungkook's absence. Others insisted it showed the opposite, that he was relishing his freedom, liberated from expectations to perform a brotherhood he no longer felt. Meanwhile, Jungkook himself remained resolutely silent. On July 5th, as Taeyong danced in Paris, Jungkook's last known activity was liking a fan tweet about his solo song topping the charts. That single, wordless gesture ignited a storm of speculation. Was it a subtle statement that he was unbothered? A deliberate refusal to acknowledge the spectacle abroad? Or a sign that he was too hurt to comment? For the ARMY, who have long prided themselves on understanding every nuance of their idols' lives, the silence was maddening. If you scroll through the comments beneath any post about the Paris party, you'll find a chorus of conflicting emotions: pride, confusion, grief, anger. In the space of a single evening, the narrative of BTS as a flawless unit had cracked wide open, exposing insecurities everyone hoped would remain hidden.